you also need to learn your skill sets around everything else that accompanies it. Water filtration, where's your local water source? If I turn off your taps to your house, can you still go find water? And I'm not talking about walking to your neighbor's house. You got to find it somewhere in nature. So these are all the things that need to be developed at the same time.
Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age Conversations covers changes in our climate due to a new and intensifying grand solar minimum. In the media, overlooking, downplaying, or burying cold weather changes occurring on our planet. This is in order to keep the global warming agenda steaming full speed ahead. I do this podcast and radio program because we need to begin conversations on how to adapt our food growing strategies long before 2030 as agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output, but very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time, cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the Grand Solar Minimum? Then join me for Mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David DuByne.
And I do welcome you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this planet. As asked for, today I have with me Christian Westbrook, the Ice Age farmer. We're going to discuss crop losses, distraction in the media, and a blueprint moving forward with what you can expect with your food prices, how this is going to tear apart the consumer spending economy. You can find more information at iceagefarmer.com. Also, he has the Ice Age Farmer wiki page where he maintains a real-time crop loss map. In your opinion, what other skill sets do you think people need to build out for these coming changes? Mine's all about constructing greenhouses, or at least underground greenhouse where it's 6 feet deep and just the top is covered with the plastic or glass, and then there's full insulation around using the earth. Just anything to be able to move forward with being able to construct, help construct, or being able to add to food infrastructure moving forward. But anything that you're thinking of?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there. I think having a firm understanding of construction and knowing, passive solar approaches so that you can construct structures that are going to be able to do a better job of heating themselves and aren't completely reliant on fossil fuels like all the ones we've sort of seen around us for years now. Definitely growing. You mentioned already preserving food, because if you grow a bunch of food, you're going to need to make it last throughout the seasons coming up. The herbs we mentioned, and that's already several lifetimes worth of skills that we've mentioned there. I think the permaculture principles are worth learning because they are applied to everything. You can apply those to your personal relationships and to your job. They're just a set of philosophies and design principles that there are second and third generation permaculture practitioners who are creating social structures, or cryptocurrencies for that matter, with a permaculture bent to them. And so there's it's a whole universe of things that are in that line of thinking. What's another one? We mentioned the ability to communicate with the outside world, especially if the internet is going down or the grid goes down, is vital. Like we said earlier, people without information get kind of crazy. And so ham radio is definitely one that I would run out, and it's so easy to do. The technician license is, it's just like a bank of multiple choice questions, and there are sites online that you can just quiz yourself until you get enough right that you feel confident, and then you just go take the test and you've got your license, and you can use your ham radio to talk to folks nearby or even more distant, depending on how the propagation is working that day.
And this episode's brought to you by TrueLeafMarket.com. Heirloom and organic seeds since 1974. Full range of garden seeds, microgreen seeds, sprouting seeds, wheatgrass, grain seeds, flower seeds, herb seeds, and ground cover crop. I encourage you to take a look at their website, TrueLeafMarket.com, and they even have free starter guides there for you to learn how to grow sprouts, microgreens, herbs, and wheatgrass. Use the link below and give yourself the gift of organic and heirloom seeds.
And then I think also, I don't know if you would consider this a skill, but I do think, and we've talked about this already, I do think it's important to have an understanding of what's going on in reality. I think we are also knowledge ambassadors at this point, and people are going to, especially if the internet goes down and we're just left with these news sources whose credibility has already been destroyed, then it will be incumbent upon those who do know what's going on to share that knowledge and to help people find sanity. First of all, find their place within the reality and the censorship and the changing conditions, and then ultimately to help them find their way and so that they can contribute back to the community. So I think, people might not like to hear this, but I think those of us who know what's going on right now have a lot of responsibilities in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I did want to share one thing also, talking about green energy or providing your own energy source. These current devices that we have for solar panels and wind are going to become less and less reliable in so many locations. The perfect point and example was down in Australia during the Australian super freeze this year. Now, not a lot of people in America even heard about this. I mean, hell, not even a lot of Australians heard about it, but they experienced it. They had a frost event that went all the way up to about 1,500 miles south of the equator. During the freeze time, so many people were drawing on the power that it was all-time record power consumption because it just got so cold. But at the same time, since Australia has made itself so reliant on all these renewables and destroyed all their coal-burning power plants, understandable for, particulate pollution. But they've replaced everything with solar panel and wind, which the wind were too fast. It was 100-mile-an-hour wind, 70, 80 miles an hour. They had to turn off all the wind generation. And during that time, there were massive snowfalls, so most of the solar farms were covered with snow. Now, the power was reduced so greatly that they were actually reducing and turning off power to companies. And some of the smelters are like, hey, we got to keep our furnaces running. We just can't turn that thing off. It's going to take us 2 weeks to bring it back online again. So the Australian government was selling to smelters at 14,000 Australian dollars per megawatt. This shows you the Achilles heel of trying to get everything up and running on green energy. Now, they're going to keep selling us in this media and that we got to move this way, we need to move this way, greenhouse gas, global warming. But if you are going to try to set something aside for your own land or for your own property about solar panels and wind, you're going to have to realize that things are changing and they're not going to be the way they used to. The total solar irradiance, although it's just going to decrease by about 3 from, let's say, 1,360 down to 1,357, that's still going to be enough to knock down some of your power coming out of those panels. In addition, there's going to be more cloud cover. That's going to knock down some more production out of your panels. And we've seen the amount of cloud cover increasing. And just the video I did yesterday, the cloud cover across the planet is astounding. How much, very little free space there's not clouds around our planet. So also as these changes are moving forward, you're going to have to think that current paradigm workable models of X, Y, or Z are not going to work. We're going to have to transition, and you're going to have to experiment with it, maybe install something extra, but you're going to have to deal with these changes the very best way you can, because these power outputs are going to be reduced down from the solar panels. And, not a lot of people talk about gravitational vortex power, but I am a huge fan of that. What you do is you take a stream bed and you just run it into a circular tank. You don't dam it at all. And then the water pours out of the bottom. It's very much like when you have a bathtub. You've taken a bath, you empty out, and at the very last, couple inches of water, it starts to create that whirlpool right there where the drain is. Well, you can recreate the same effect, like a 4-foot wide concrete round pipe, if you will, or basin, and then just put a rotor in there. It's nonstop electricity, it's water, it creates more power, and as long as you have flowing water, you can create your own power. Now, some places are going to become wetter, which you'll start to get more consistent rainfalls. Some places are going to dry out. So even with gravitational vortex power, Still going to have to think about some of these changes in our environment. Anybody thinking about geothermal? You can build a small geothermal plant around your area, or you can even just heat pipes underground, put those pipes down 4 or 5 feet. You have some heat there. There's just so many solutions to think about, but it's all in flux and it's all changing. But these things that are working need to be shared, because gravitational vortex power, it works. And in Nepal, I was working with Energy Research Nepal, and they've actually built some things out now. If you want to check out a few of their videos online, you have to go to ERN, that's in Nepal, and you can see what they've built just out of scrap metal. And they built their own blades out of scrap metal, and they are making it work out there for remoter villages that they're installing themselves these GVP plants. And Zoltauer out of Germany is the one with this vortex power. You definitely check it out. But these are just little ideas and solutions for power moving forward.
Actually, I want to circle back to the IPCC's report that we mentioned a few weeks ago with the waves of media about the fiery hothouse Earth, the tipping point being reached, and the media using "we're all going to die," literally "we're all going to die" in the headlines. I mentioned that I'm an escapee from the Silicon Valley tech industry, and I can still tell you, though, that there were meetings and safe spaces and cry groups and all those same things were taking place just a couple weeks ago. This is extreme. This is the trauma-based mind control, and these people are being told that they have no future.
And since I have been talking about our need moving forward in this new society that we're entering as our global grain production starts to be reduced in yield, your food prices are going to skyrocket. And I mean skyrocket, not just doubling or tripling, something like 5 or 10 times higher by 2020 at the very least. TrueLeafMarket.com. I really want to talk about growing your own food, which will be a necessity moving forward. They've been around since 1974, heirloom and organic seeds. You know, since I've started talking about them in my videos, I have a lot of people write and say that they've previously ordered, that they know the owner, having great results, good customer service. They quite enjoyed the seed quality as well. And there's so many ways that we can go about growing different types of vegetables that we're going to need. You know, microgreens are incredibly nutritious. They're super fast to grow. In less than a week, you can have something that you can eat. And we know the benefits of microgreens. All you have to do is use a search engine and look up vitamin, mineral, nutrient content of microgreens. You'll be shocked. Also, sprouts. We can get those a little bit taller, a little more dense, a little bit larger volume on the vegetation mass coming off of there. So how do you know what kind of sprouts to grow? How about wheatgrass or herbs? What about different types of herbs that we can add to our foods? Now, what I just described to you, there's a full range of starter guides there at TrueLeafMarket.com for you to take a look at. Even if it's just for your own knowledge and you don't purchase something from them, at least get the information so you know how to grow microgreens, you know how to grow sprouts, you understand what some of the herbs are for. And not only that, they have wheatgrass and grain seeds. So when I'm talking about grain growing regions going offline, we just need to look back in history and see where across the planet there was difficulty growing grains when this grand solar minimum intensified and the jet stream started wandering just like they're doing today due to a decreased magnetosphere that does not hold our jet streams locked in their traditional flows. Grains are one thing, herb seeds are another, cover crops, something different, but whatever you do, organic seeds are going to be a necessity because you can save those seeds and then grow them the next season, which you unequivocally cannot do with GMO. TrueLeafMarket.com. Use the link below and give yourself the gift of organic and heirloom seeds.
And there's nothing they can do, which is not a comfortable place to be. But I saw today the tech industry is now, get this, striking back against global warming. We're going to stop climate change. We have to. Y Combinator, which is a tech accelerator, it's like an incubator, gives angel round funding, has put out a call for what it's calling frontier technologies for geoengineering to solve climate change. This includes developing new strains of ocean phytoplankton that are GMO, other weird GMO enzymatic carbon fixing with CO-free cell systems. Just the most ridiculous science fiction suggestions, desalinating vast amounts of water and building 1 kilometer square oases in the deserts. They calculate you would only need to use about half the area of the Sahara Desert. So just ludicrous suggestions that are coming out here. So, and some of these pilot projects are funded by Bill Gates. So there's a lot of this, I think, is just making noise to make it seem like big, important people with lots of money are trying to do something about CO2, right? Just trying to propagate this whole myth of CO2 because they're able to print money so they can do whatever they want and continue that lie. But I've also been paying attention to this geoengineering meme and these headlines, this dialogue that's been going on in the headlines. The media talking point around it has been kicked around for a couple of years now. Like maybe we should use geoengineering, maybe we shouldn't. In a worst case scenario, we could consider it. And the whole shtick is that, well, volcanoes do it and it gets cooler when that happens. So we're just going to spray some stuff into the atmosphere and it'll get cooler. That's the whole talking point. They simplify it down to volcanoes. We're going to do what volcanoes do. We're going to spray some stuff up there. And it's not clear to me why, but it sure seems like they are desperately trying to justify this and get people to accept a massive public open geoengineering program.
I'm not a fan of that. And also, I would not be a fan of putting GMO algae into the ocean, into its natural ecosystem, because we just have no idea what the effects would be for plankton eating types of organisms, whether it be fish or anything on the way down. What about, you're disrupting an entire ecosystem. I mean, we're going to be scraping by for food and grains anyway. I mean, the oceans could provide some sustenance. I mean, we fish those out and polluted them with plastics to the nth degree. So I don't know how much the oceans are really going to help, but adding in GMO plankton in there, definitely not going to be a good idea. And geoengineering, I've talked about that several times. I even had Jim Lee from climateviewer.com on. We did a 2-hour interview. He was talking about possibly cosmic radiation management, and that was my edge of it. But the links he went to explain how far along these programs are, they're talking about possibly putting it in play, but Jim was very firm in belief that it's been in play for several years now. Is it really for this purpose of, volcanic aerosol mimicking reflective events to try to cool, or is it really for cosmic radiation management because those nanometals will nullify a charge from a cosmic ray coming in, colliding with it? And you just wonder why it's nanoparticulates. How much can that spread? And really, how much of a protective coating in our magnetosphere will this be for cosmic ray density? I don't believe tinkering with the atmosphere is a good way to go, because they keep trying to say, no, it's going to warm the planet, it's going to warm the planet. But we're cooling, so why don't we talk about that first before you go injecting stuff up in our atmosphere? Without my consent, or yours, by the way.
Yeah, it's laughable. And all those solutions were motivated by reducing CO2, which is a hoax to begin with. So it's laughable all the way down. But it is, they are calling for that, and it is being suggested to those people who are buying into the alarmism hook and sink and ladder, whatever the expression is, who are really buying into it. They're ready. They're saying, well, at least we have some smart people with a lot of money who can spray the skies. So that's a scary thing to see. I do think it's been going on far longer as well. I see we're up against the clock here, so I wanted to say, I recently had found a quote and shared it on Ice Age Farmer video from Helen Keller. She said, "Far worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision." And I feel like a lot of us in the Grand Solar Minimum space have sight. We can see what's coming down the pike, but we're also at times lacking a vision of how do we embrace this? How do we possibly create a good future in that space? And I understand why. It's got a tremendous human cost to it. There's a lot of fear when you look back at the way it's gone on in history that pops up. But it's really up to all of us to show up now. We all have unique pieces. Each of us has these unique contributions we can make to this vision, and we need to bring those to the table now. It's, we hit this at the top as well. It is when we come together and we work together to create a new, better future that we can succeed at that. And it's for that reason that they work so hard to divide and conquer us. Because we can get through this together, folks. Take that to the bank. I understand it's hard to be optimistic given everything we're up against and the seemingly insurmountable amount of effort that needs to go into preparation and possibly even reinventing yourself, killing off your ego. There's a lot there. But there always have been throughout these cycles in history. And so too will there now be folks who can manage to get through just fine, or else we wouldn't be here. So I think we need to really internalize that, and maybe also just step back. And I'm learning a lot. The more I grow, the more I learn from these flowers. And when I look from these plants, all of them, and when I look at a flower, for example, it doesn't ever wake up and feel self-conscious. It certainly doesn't get afraid about coming out and blooming. Maybe I'll get rained on or stepped on today. They show up every day and they bloom. They give it their all every day. And I think we can learn from that. I think many of us get stuck in patterns that are glass prisons of fear. And it's a simple failure to imagine a better future. And we must break out of those patterns.
And coming from my perspective, I firmly believe this is the greatest opportunity in human history ever, combined of all human history at this focal point right now. I believe it is the greatest time to thrive and prosper by offering information that can help other people, providing value to those who don't know what's going on, and just look at how easy it is to communicate for now, and how easy it is to put your message out for now. But I also, in that said, there's so many opportunities. You just have to find your niche within that. But in the Grand Solar Minimum community out here, Christopher's still in high school. Ice Age 2050, the climate guy. I mean, you have people that are taking on the reins clear down and haven't even graduated out of high school yet, and he's into this thing, doing his own analysis on it, but he's capturing an entirely different demographic and age range of people who are starting to follow him at that younger age. And those are, the demographic that was kind of missing out of the debate here, because when you look at Dr. Roy Spencer and all these people running What's Up With That, it's all that crew that's 40 years and above. So it seems that people 40 years and over, 35 and over, all are they follow the websites, they know where to go, they know this information. But it's good to see even younger minds bringing it on, taking it on, understanding that their lives are going to be affected completely for the rest of their lives as long as they live. Much more of an impact than you would have if you're 60 years old. I mean, somebody who's 15, 16 coming up in the world compared to somebody who's 60, they're going to have to live here a lot longer. They're going to need the solutions. So I can see why some of these younger minds are starting to grasp and talk to people and try to find ways to move forward, because that is their new reality. And it's all of ours, but you got to embrace that the changes are here. You can't fear them. You have to embrace them. And if you can really find a niche inside there to provide the most value and help the most people at the time that they need it most.
Amen. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'll break some news here. I have one son now, and I have another on the way shortly here. And so I am all in on that future. It's not just me in a radio show saying we're going to be all right, folks. I'm literally actively doubling down on our ability to navigate these changes and to have a wonderful future ahead of us. And more importantly, I'm confident that we can, as enough of us come online and we start working together. We're sharing seeds, forming communities, making real connections. I'm looking forward to it. I think we can do it.
Yeah, before we sign off here, we just have about 1 minute left. Give us some information. How can anybody find the work that you're doing out there? I have already mentioned iceagefarmer.com, but throw us through a few social media links and a few other ways that people can find the information that you're listing, the interviews you're talking to people about. I'm curious myself here what we can find.
Definitely. iceagefarmer.com is the hub, and I'll just give that one because it links off to wherever the videos are. And for now, that's YouTube. But if that ever changes, you'll still be able to find all the videos and the new ones coming on iceagefarmer.com from wherever they're coming from. Also, I want to mention there is a group of people both on the Ice Age Farmer forum where we're hanging out talking about the steps we're taking every day to try and prepare for the future and just in general supporting each other there. And similarly, there's a Discord group where I got some of the questions for tonight. So yeah, come out. iceagefarmer.com has links to all those things, and everyone should feel free to send me an email. It's Christian@iceagefarmer.com.
This video is brought to you by our friends at TrueLeafMarket.com. Heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on our planet.